everyone, it's Ayosia here. I've got a couple of journals to show you. They're both nature journals. These are probably going to be the last two nature journals I do for a while. Yeah, I'm really excited to show these to you. It's quite unusual that I'd have two journals out, but I felt super inspired and I've worked really hard on them. So here they are. So I'm going to show you this one first and then I'll show you this one. This one has got a lot more in it, so I'm hoping that it's not going to be too long a video, but let's see how we get on. So let's start with this one. They both have fabric covers. This one is actually really simple on the front. It's got a canvas cover that goes all the way around, a hidden spine. It's a super large spine, so a 3-inch spine, because I wanted to leave a lot more room for expansion. Let's see. So on the cover it's just got this simple leaf image there and a bit of layering. About 4 different layers of lace, and yeah, and the lace goes all the way around to the back, and then the journal opens out like this. I'm just going to check that we are actually, unusually I can actually see what I'm doing, so I think I'm going to check anyway. Okay, I meant to say actually that the lace on the front has been coffee dyed, in case you're wondering why it's that colour. It's intentional. I coffee dyed the lace. Okay, so the inside front cover has got this corduroy, there's card under there, and then there's fabric sewn over the top of it. And so there's corduroy, some trim, some wax paper, some coffee dyed fabric, and a moth. And in here is a pocket, and I have put an envelope. This one's tea dyed, the top one, and it has a couple of my watercolor bird images in there. And then oh gosh, it's going to take me too long to put that back in. And I also put some spare square envelopes, because there are loads of this size watercolor images in the journal, so if you did want to take one out and pop it in an envelope to send to a friend, I'm all for that. I love handwritten letters in the post. This journal is encouraging you to do that, so that's why those are there. And so the first signature, the journal has 120 pages front and back, 120 sides. Oh gosh, I don't know the measurements as usual, but I'll put them in the description box below. But the pages are roughly A5 in size, that way. And so yeah, this is some lovely upholstery fabric with this beautiful image sewn on, a daisy trim there, and it's just like a really mini notebook with old papers in there. These haven't been tea dyed, but they're old, so that you can, there's slightly discoloring there. This is a piece of card, put that back later. A journaling card with different fabrics and paper sewn on. You can write on the back. This is a collage of different things, some doilies, some blue paper under there, beautiful butterfly image, and it's sewn onto this blue coffee dyed paper, so you could write all there and all there. Look at that lovely effect from the coffee. I usually tea dye actually, but I think there's a mixture of tea dyed papers and coffee dyed papers in here. Some blue card there. A book page about deer in Britain, made into a journaling card. One of my watercolor prints. So the sides are all tea dyed and they're printed out onto really good quality cards. They've come out really well, and they're all signed at the bottom, and you can of course write on the back. Here I made an envelope with a collage on the front, the pine cone, and in there is a tag with more collage and a silk tab at the top. I'm going to try and go quick because I've got a whole other journal to show you. One of my watercolor images. One of mine, owl. They're mostly all mine. Hair. That flips up like that. Blue card. Some more cards. Some more card. This is the second signature. On the front, I've sewed a collage of this beautiful tree image, some coffee sacks and burlap, and there's even a little bit of greaseproof paper under there, all sewn on. And then on the other side is a tuck spot with this vintage wallpaper, some vintage fabric, a tree image, and another of those collaged envelopes. And that lives in there. Oh, I like the colours of these. And a silk tab. My Mr. Fox, one of mine. A book page of some berries made into a journaling card. Don't know if you can see on the reverse, there were trees on the reverse, and it's kind of showing through the paper, so that's quite nice. Beautiful paper. Some blue coffee dyed paper, and on here is a collage of different fabrics. That's paper, doily, butterfly, and that oh no, this one doesn't open up. You can just write on the back. My Mr. Squirrel. I don't know why they're all Misters. That could be Mrs. Squirrel eating her little nut. I think she's Mrs. Squirrel. It's an owl, one of mine. Middle of the second signature, some pretty flowers, another of my water. So as you see, yeah, there's lots of these. So again, if you think, oh, my friend, you know, would like this, there's a spare envelope. You write a nice little note to your friend and pop it in the envelope and send it off in the post. So that's what I mean. That's why they're there. Or you can, of course, keep them all for your own journaling. One of these collaged tags, stitch tags with lots of layers of fabric. There's a bird image there, and you can write on the back. Another stitched tag with one of my images of a robin. This lovely, I don't know what this fabric is, kind of tweed, but it's not. That's velvet paper. And on the other side is another stitched tag with mushrooms on, vintage wallpaper and vintage fabric. I love how all the colours come together in this one. It's a little mushroom journaling space, and this folds out like that. I'll put that back together later. Mr. Raccoon. Third signature is a really sturdy journaling card with layers of upholstery fabric, burlap, and a moth, and you can write on the back. And that's card. Another journaling card there. And one of my owls. A little birdie tag. A butterfly, stamped butterfly stitched onto layers of fabric, and you can write on the back of this. Yep. A tip in there, this fabric is beautiful. And this is parchment paper there. Another one of mine of the moth. Another stitched tag with one of my images, a magpie, on different fabrics. And here is a really sturdy tag that I made with a book page fabric, doily fabric there. You can write on the back. And on the other side is a tea-dyed envelope with some petal paper in there. And this tag, where is it, actually fits in this envelope as well, so they could all go together in there. Another stitched tag with really old wallpaper, different fabrics and that beautiful image there. Middle of the third signature. Another tag with this stamped bird. And just a little scrap bit of paper with some herbs stitched on. A vintage image of mushrooms. This is from the Graphics Fairy. One of mine. There's the little mouse in its hiding place. That opens up like that. Almost at the end. The journaling space. And that opens up like that, so you could write there and all in there. Or you could do that. You get the idea. Oh, that was on the other side. Another stitch tag with a butterfly and coffee sack, burlap, fabrics, different things there. Another stitch tag with one of my bird images. That's velvet. And that's the end. There's a pocket in here as well. I haven't put anything in there, but there's another pocket there for you to store whatever you like. So that's the end of the first journal. And so I'm going to list that in my shop today. And that folds over like that. And then it's a nice long tie around. You can tie it around a couple of times and just tuck that in there. And that's that. So that's the first journal. Now the second, let's put that out of the way. This is the second journal. Now there's a lot going on with this and I have to figure out how I'm going to get it all in frame. I'm so excited to show you. Again, it's a fabric cover and this coffee dyed lace that goes all the way around. And so the front here, there's some upholstery fabric, which has got these kind of, they look like leaves to me, stitched on. There's a lace trim there, some fabric, a doily, and a couple of images from a book. And then there's some coffee dyed fabric there, and that goes around there, and that's the back. Again, that beautiful fabric there. There's a doily trim, image from a book, some waxed paper, some lace, and some upholstery fabric there. So that's, you know, what you first see, and then it opens out like this. There's a pocket in here and there's a pocket in there, and there's an envelope. Well, I'll just talk you through each bit. I think is probably the easiest. So you have an envelope here which I've stitched on. This journal has been really inspired by Sagita's work. I really love just the way she like the grungy style, and I just really love her journals. So this was inspired by her. I put some gesso and sprayed on some vintage photo ink. So there's some laces there, doily, some fabric. So there's a journal in there for you to put stuff in, and then that opens up like that. There's a journal here, and then it keeps going. There's a journal there, and there's a pocket there, and then there's another journal in here. I'm going to have to stop the video because I have no idea if I am in frame. Okay, I think I said this was a journal, but no, obviously it's an envelope. Got my words mixed up there. So there's an envelope in here, and then that opens out like that. So I'll just, and then it goes all the way to the end, which you've seen. So let me start with here. Let's see, let's move this along. There's an envelope in here, and so there's some fabric which I stitched on, and these bits of the edge of a doily, and then there's a tea-dyed envelope in here with a lot, actually, because this is the journal is split into 3 parts. I didn't put all the watercolor images in here, so that some of them are in this envelope. So there's 5 of these, which you've seen in the other journal. The cup owl, flower, couple of flowers. So there's 5 watercolor images in here. all inked around the edges and printed out onto really good quality card. And then in here, like as in the other journal, I put some plain white envelopes in case you wanted to, you know, use them as note cards, and some bird tags. So they live in this pocket in there. And then you have this journal, which is completely detachable. So you could actually have this separate from the fold out thing. This flip through is compounded by the fact that my desk is actually a mess. You can't see the mess because it's not in frame, but I'm grappling with so many things on this desk. So there's a journal there, and I'll show you that in a minute. And in here is a large pocket with this collage on the front, this beautiful fabric. There's lace, burlap, canvas, and there's a mini journal in here. It's plain on the inside. It has 40 pages. Sorry, yeah, 40 sides in here, and it has this this lovely upholstery fabric on the front and this collage there, and it's just like a mini file folder cover. So that's like a plain notebook with different papers in there. There's even some baking paper, some pretty paper, and that's the back. 1 second. Okay, I just had to remind myself of how many pages was in each bit. So in here there are 44 sides. There's also a TN size journal, and there are 40 sides in this one. And in the main journal there are 80 sides. So let me start. You've seen this one, yeah, and that lives in that nice pocket there. And then there's the journal which is removable, and it has this lace tie around, coffee dyed lace. There's a lace trim here, different fabrics, a tree, canvas, and that's the back. And it opens out, and on the fold in again there's a strip of lace and different fabrics, and another strip of lace there. So in this journal begins with a pocket made of baking paper that's coffee dyed, this lace pocket there, a mini journaling card with a moth and some vintage wallpaper. You can write on the back, and there's a pocket also in there and in here. You've seen these in the other journal. A little bit of paper with a bird stamp on it. Hope you can see that. Book page. This is Edith Holden with June, because we're in the month of June. Tuck spot here with some vintage wallpaper, a moth, some pretty paper there on canvas, and my bird image in there. This is wallpaper with a lace trim with paper stitched on the back so you can write on it. Edith Holden book page. Some mushrooms stitched onto this sturdier paper, and just a scrap of paper with different things and a mushroom there, and that opens up like that. Mrs. Squirrel. There's two signatures in this one. That opens up like that. Edith Holden book page. A book page made into a journaling card of some trees you found in the forest. A stitched journal. This is lace, that's vintage wallpaper. Coffee dyed blue paper on the back. The other side of that wallpaper. Mr. Fox book page. An owl, and that's some card. The other side of the greaseproof paper, this lace trim there, another of those stitched cards with different things on there with a bird. Right on the back, there's a pocket of course in here and there as well. Collage with butterfly. I don't ever know if that's a moth or a butterfly. I think it's a butterfly. and different fabrics there. Pretty paper, a journaling card with canvas, paper, vintage wallpaper. You can write on the back, that's card. Flip up with this gorgeous tapestry fabric. The hair, another journaling card with trees on it. And on the other side, again, those trees on the back. I don't know if you can see that through the paper. Quite like that effect. That lives there. Another stitched card. Raccoon. Tuck spot with canvas, vintage wallpaper, moth, and a matching stitched journaling card. One of mine. I really like this one. Different fabrics. There's silk in there with the mushrooms. And the vintage image of mushrooms there. My little mouse. Edith Holden book page. And another of those stitched journaling cards. Different things going on. There's velvet there. And you can write on the back. Little stamped. I think these are like mini, like that, little stamped butterflies. There's two lots of those. And that's the journal. And so that closes up like that. And as I say, you can either, it could either live in here or it could be separate from here. So I've showed you that. So let's move this along and I'll show you. So the other journal lives, so there's 3 journals, this mini one, the main one, and this one lives in this pocket. It has its own pocket here, which has got various papers and fabrics and lace and doily, and there's some vintage wallpaper. This is the back of that envelope that's there. Anyway, the TN, I made sure that it fits in my it fits in a standard traveler's notebook. I think they're called standard ones. I'm going to go and fetch it and show you. 1 second. So yeah, so when you open this up, so it's got a little, just a lace tie round, which is loose. So you could it could either live in here, or if you have a traveler's notebook, you could put it in there. So this is my one, and this would fit in there like that. So the measurements are 8 and something and 4, I can't remember. I'm going to put it in the description box below. This has got, what did I say? It had 40 sides. So the front has got different things. Again, the vintage wallpaper, there's fabric, there's lace, there's a doily there and a little tree image. And the back is plain with a green card. And inside here is a tuck spot. It's very narrow, so it would just fit something flat. There's a little birdie tag in there, a couple of bits of lace, some embroidery, not embroidery, some embellishment on the page. This is actually the inside of an envelope, so there's silk then stitched on. I'm going to try and go quick. I think this has been a long video. There's a tag there, a daisy trim there, another of those stitched tags with a bird on it and different fabrics. And on the other side, I was playing around with Photoshop. I'm just learning how to use it, and I made my Mr. Fox image into a pattern. It's come up really small, and I didn't want to waste it, so I've just inked the edges and put that in here. And then there's some tracing paper, and underneath it you can see Mr. Fox peeking through there. So there's lots of mini Mr. Foxes and Mr. Fox there. And that's, you can take that out, that's just like a journaling page. A book page, little dragonfly with a canvas embellishment on the page, a tuck spot here just with some information about deer in Britain, stamping, trim, a mini journaling spot there, bird stamp, another of those stitched tags. This one's really chunky. It's got some sweater fabric, some herbs fabric and stitching. You can write on the back of that. Book page, tracing paper, and here I've just put a few bits and pieces. Let's see, there's some actual tree bark which I cut into a circle, and a couple of stamped dragonflies, and a random piece of canvas, just if you wanted to play around with that in the journal somewhere. Butterfly, fold out like that. Daisy trim, another of my watercolor image, and again the Mr. Fox pattern page, and that's the end. So that lives in there. Phew, I got to the end. Oh, not quite actually. There's another teeny bit. There's a pocket here, and in here I just put, there's a Tim Holtz clip, a stamped butterfly, one of my watercolor images, and this is vintage sketchbook paper. I got given a whole load of these books from the 1960s, so the paper is naturally discolored, so I put that in there in case you wanted to do some sketching or something like that. So that lives. So that's an extra butt pocket for you. I hope this hasn't been too confusing. I was just inspired and wanted to play. Oh, I'll put that back later. And so that folds over like that. You've got a firm surface to write on or draw on, and your journal goes in there. Let's put it all back together again. That folds over like that with your envelope, and that goes over like that. Phew! We got to the end, and you got your long lace tie around. Any questions, let me know. So I'm going to list these two in my Etsy shop today, hopefully. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this hasn't been too long or too confusing or too all over the place. But have a wonderful morning, evening, wherever you are. And until next time, lots and lots of love. Bye-bye.